How are you? And know you're very, very excited about our guest.
I am doing great. Thank you, Neil. And yes, I am very excited about our guest. I was just in Japan. And so it's even
Oh,
more exciting for me, I think. Samuel Satin, you've written so many books: Buzzing, Side Quest, The Silent End. You have this new project that has come out that is going to just do gangbusters. I just know that it will. It's unbelievable. Unico Awakening. It's going to be a series, but already you're getting great reviews. And you have an MFA in comics. I didn't even know that that was available. But anyway, Samuel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
well, thank
wonderful
you
to be
so much
here.
for
And yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I am always fascinated how people get started in what they do. What you're doing is pretty unique. There's only so many people in the world and but in the US that are doing what you're doing and doing it to the level that you're doing it. So what prompted all this with Mango? Like what was the start for you?
Sure. Yeah. I got into I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I got really into anime during that time because there wasn't a lot of manga available in the 90s. There was a lot of anime available. You go down to Suncoast Video and get videotapes and buy series and things like that. So that was when I kind of got into it. And then as manga became more available, I just ate it up and became really interested in the medium, and how it differs from American comics, which I also love. And Yeah, I just always thought it had something there's something very special about manga that I've always really valued and enjoyed.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. What got you in that love of all this? Enjoying this?
What's
What
that?
what gate got you in love of all this? Enjoying
I
all
think, well,
um,
yeah, I think it was basically the stories, the characters, and the art and the technique. There was just such a though manga is just the Japanese word for comics when you come down to it. So essentially it's the same thing. It's just comics, but with manga you have just some stylistic differences that really stand out. First of all, a lot of it is in black and white on a grayscale. And so you have a lot of and the stories are really epic and they go for long periods of time, and there are stories for of all different kinds. If you want a sports story or a adventure story or a story about cooking or whatever it happens to be, you can find it. And that's what I just really became. I really was just I've just always been captivated by it and just and enjoyed it as a reader.
Yeah, well, and I think that that's one big difference between comics that I grew up with the things that I grew up with, where the story would end. It'd be a day in the life of, but the story kind of ends. Where with manga, it goes on and on and on. It's like almost to be
True.
continued, right? It wraps up enough
Yeah.
of it that you're sort of satisfied, but you can't wait for the next.
Well, right. And if you think about some of the big superhero books and stuff like that, and which is nothing wrong with those things, but you're right, they have more self-contained arcs and they jump from one to one. But if you look at, manga, you'll have Dragon Ball number one, and now then two, three, four, five, six, seven. And it's a complete continuation of the same characters and the same story towards an end. And so they can go on for a very, very, very long time. And yeah, they're a little bit more expansive that in my opinion that way.
no, absolutely. So talk about how you came up with the idea for this series.
So for Unico,
Okay.
basically, I've just became a huge admirer of Osamu Tezuka, who is the considered to be the god of manga in Japan and the creator of this character originally in 1976. And When I got the chance to pitch a story to pitch an idea to Tezuka Productions a few years ago, I completely jumped at the possibility to do so and was I decided I was looking at different characters, the different character reimaginations that I could pitch to them. And Unico just seemed to me such a fascinating character to work with and to tackle. And so I pitched to them, and they, to my great surprise and happiness, said yes. And then from there, we launched a Kickstarter, in 2022 to kind of get the book funded as a proof of concept. Um, and uh, uh, and then it did quite well, and then from there we were able to my agent was able to submit the story to Scholastic, and they made our wildest dreams come true with having a ongoing series.
Yeah, well, I would say there
So
was a
that's
couple wildest dreams that must have come true during that. Like you sort of
yeah.
glazed over it, but you were like, I had the opportunity to pitch. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
how huge,
it was
right?
through a couple. Yeah, I was actually through a couple friends of mine, my friend Deb Aoki, who's a kind of all over the manga and manga scene in many, many ways, was able to introduce me to to a couple people who were looking for ideas. And so through there I eventually was led to the doors of Tezuka Productions, and I visited Japan during the pandemic actually to go and talk to the people at Tezuka Productions, which was about the project, which was an incredible and fascinating experience. And I've been to Japan before, but traveling during the pandemic was a whole entire different story.
Sure.
And yeah, and we were able to put together this incredible campaign.
You know, what's amazing is that you're in one of the hottest genres. Anime is just blowing up. I mean,
Yeah.
I ended up interviewing one of the top podcasts in anime, and someone had to tell me, "Did you know who you just interviewed?" I'm like, "Oh," like one of my team on my agency's like, "You just interviewed rock stars." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm not very familiar with anime yet, so oops. And so I think that you're on that path because you're in such a market in the US, worldwide anime, right? It's not
Yes.
just
Yes.
it started in Japan, but it's all over the place. And in the United States, it's so popular, isn't it?
100%. Well, 100% it is. And actually, often the books, the manga titles will outsell a lot of American comics. They pretty much do on a very regular basis. It's a global phenomenon, and the world over, they're just the stories and the characters have reached so many people worldwide. And it's interesting to me because growing up, for me, when I was growing up, it was really still something that was pretty niche. It was you were kind of a nerd who enjoyed anime and manga, and you kind of you know it wasn't a big thing, but now it's everywhere. I taught a class at an art school in the Bay Area, and all the incoming students, they all want to draw manga. That's all they want to do. They want to draw manga, and they want to draw in the style of Japanese comics, and it's just become this huge worldwide phenomenon. And yeah, I'm just, it's exciting to be able to work with a team in Japan and to really to bring the story to life. And I think that's the most important part, is to make sure that you work with the source material. And so that's been
Yeah.
really fun for me.
And you go to Japan and there's 5 stories, 6, 10 stories filled with all kinds of manga, and you can be there for days and days and days. It's crazy. But even the comic stores here,
Incredible.
the sections of it are outperforming and growing bigger and bigger and bigger and taking over the stores because it's so good. But there are certain things about Unico that are so unique, and I can see why you would glob onto this character. And it's a character, sometimes people will say, well, what's your superpower? Or, everybody's got some super, what in the comics, people have superpowers. Well, to have a superpower that is to have a positive impact on human emotions, like that's
Yes.
the superpower to have, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Unico's superpower, is the ability to spread kindness and to inspire people to spread, love. And it's so much so that he draws the ire of a vengeful goddess, so who tries to have him destroyed. And throws everything she can at him to do so. And as a result, he loses his memory, and he has to kind of travel through, try to regain his lost memories as he goes through his journeys. And Yeah, he's and you know, and with along with his, you know, his powers, they manifest in really, you know, exciting ways as well. So, you know, he can fly, he can fight, he can do a lot of different things. But at the core of it all is just friendship and kindness and love. So yeah, that's his superpower.
All right, so let's talk
Yeah.
about merch because you're showing me all this merch. What all the mer what so you did you think when you got this book deal that you get merch and everything involved in this?
I expected none of this. I mean, yeah, I mean, first starting out at the very beginning, you know, we thought we could, you know, get people to really get into this character and to understand how, you know, wonderful he could be for a new generation of readers. And then from there, we thought that, you know, we get the book published and maybe, you know, if we do well, maybe we can get a second book published, but we had no idea the scale of what would take place. And so now there are people that I know are actively working on merchandising plans. I'm not involved really as much with it in terms of just being pretty excited about to see everything. So that's kind of that's where I am on it. I'm like, I just can't wait. It's really
Yeah, no
it's going to be
kidding.
exciting to get.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like the
So
sky's the limit. And to be
yeah,
involved with Scholastic, like
Right.
that's gigantic, right?
yeah.
Like how did that
It's
come
huge.
about?
So that was after the Kickstarter. My agent ended up pitching out the book, and Scholastic was thought it was exactly what they were looking for, and they saw the exact same, honestly, the exact same vision that we did, which was so cool. We both kind of saw eye to eye in the whole entire thing, and how it could be kind of a gateway manga and also something that's kind of good for kids, you know, younger kids, because one of the things about manga is it's incredible, but you know, one of the things you hear from librarians and from you know, a lot of parents is that their kid who's 8 or 9 years old will really want to get into manga and they'll bring home a more mature book like Attack on Titan or Demon Slayer or something like that. And it's more violent. It has suggestive themes. It's more for, you know, a little bit of an older audience. And but they're so drawn to the illustration style and to the way that it looks that they want it. So the idea with this is we can provide all the hallmarks of a manga and a good
Oh,
manga for kids to be able to dig into, you know.
that's right.
So it's like to kind of, you know, a big adventure for kids to kind of go, you know, get into without having to go to that next echelon quite yet.
100%. All right. So Kim, you have a love question you ask all our guests. So go ahead.
I do. I do. I'll tell you, Samuel, I lived this year, I dedicated a year to figuring out the true meaning of love, which was
Okay.
quite an adventure, I have to say. And the things I discovered just blew my mind. And so I'm always curious, like with you, I imagine you as this kid drawing comics your whole life and looking at comics and doodling and drawing and your parents maybe going, can you make a living at this, buddy? You know, like, is this a thing?
Sure.
But you must have a deep love for it. And love must play some role in it all. And so I'm curious, where do you see love in your life and in what you do?
Oh, wow. What a great question. I think that well, you know, I happen to be in a love with somebody who in my life who just makes everything better every single day. So that's part of it, I think. My wife and it's just wonderful. And then and I think that, you know, yeah, when it comes to comics, I just think that the you know, growing up with them, you know, you kind of are convinced that it's kind of almost like a lot of people thought it was a trash medium, kind of like, you know, oh, kind of throwaway, kind of garbage, not really that important. And I kind of realized how much that almost increased my love of comics, to make me feel like, you know, this is something that this is important. This is an important thing this is an important medium. This is an important thing that people really need to understand and to love and to appreciate. And that for me is probably one of my uh, you know, the way that I show my love in comics is just being like, this stuff is the real deal, and really, it deserves its place among the stars, you know.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right. Best place people can go buy the books and stuff. Where can they go?
They can go anywhere. They can go. It's going to be all bookstores nationwide. You can purchase it online as well from retailers as bookshop.org, from, of course, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the different online retailers. And yeah, your local bookstore, comic book shop. You can stop by and grab it there. Most should be carrying it. And you can find me on social media at Samuel Satin. It's both on X, Twitter, and Instagram, and all those different things. That's where you can find me.
All right. Thanks, Samuel. We appreciate it. All right. That was a special
Thank you so much.
simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Love is